Welcome to Easy Street, broadcasting from the heart of Lad City. If you're watching this over on YouTube, it would be great if you also join the Discord server. There's a lot of content. We got a great tribe over here. There are channels about DeFi, gaming, NFT, the crypto market, the metaverse. We're building amazing stuff. So we'd love to have you come join. We got drops. We got cool liquidity provider rewards and all sorts of stuff. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, come on over. All you have to do is type ladz.city, that's lads.city, into your browser, and that's your invitation over to Lad City. We have an amazing guest tonight. Aglitch is with us, and it's one of those shows that's always really exciting for me because I'm starting with a pretty fresh low knowledge base about what Aglitch does. I've just taken a little peep at a few things. So I always love learning about an artist and their projects live along with you, the audience. And with that, I'd love to introduce Aglitch. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. It's been a productive day. Been around to a couple different good metaverse shows and crypto shindigs and stuff. So yeah, I'm just always happy to be over here in Lad City with the tribe. We have a saying over here, our vibe, our tribe, because a lot of the people that have found themselves here had just kind of, been wandering the metaverse and then stumbled across a Lad or, seen a Lad City episode and just been like, man, I really connect with that kind of vibe. And come on over, and that's how I got here. I came over to a radio show after seeing a YouTube show and wound up hopping on the mic with Crypto Buffalo, and said I talked to Q a little bit and just pretty much fired up the idea of doing a show and working with the guys, and here it is months later, and now we're getting Easy Street out to YouTube as well. So it's been a great ride, and I'm glad that you found your way here as well, and that we're here hanging out today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of similar to my story. I found Lad City through a crypto lender, through a clubhouse room. I think he was just announcing, or he was just working on his the hats, the snapbacks that he was working on, and that was kind of right in line. Yeah, so I was what resonated with me was I was about to launch the product or the project that I've now embarked on. I've been on about 4 weeks now. But it was, it was like, oh, if you're doing that, you might be interested in it. And so that's kind of how my introduction was. And I'm glad that I found Lad City for sure. It's and I'm sure that this is probably true for a lot of people, but I know for me, it's kind of the wind in the sails when you're you're doing your own thing and you're really pushing, but to have a community that's is on your vibe and on your kind of the things that you're interested in, it makes it's inspiring. So I'm just happy to be here and to contribute and talk a little bit about what I've learned and whatever, answer questions. My whole thing is I have a pretty simple life mantra that's it's a daily thing. It's basically be creative, be stupid, and be generous. And so however that that can manifest itself in a lot of different ways, but I just kind of operate under that that mantra, and life tends to be a lot more interesting that way, I've found.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a wide variety of interests here in Lad City, and then a lot of support for from the groups that have those overlapping interests. So it is really great that you made it over here. One of the things I like to ask my guests kind of before we dive into the project and everything is where does your passion for art come from? What kind of got you started down the road with that drive to do your own art? and then maybe a little bit about, you know, the journey that got you into the crypto art specifically, or this virtual reality and crypto scene, after hearing kind of, you know, where your love of art came from.
Yeah, totally. So my love of art came from like birth, essentially. Like I was, you know, like, God bless my parents for not like murdering me as a little kid, but I would like draw like on the walls with crayons. You know, like as a little kid, like 3 years old, you know, like the I've always been creating art for as long as I can remember. And I've always had that fascination. And it's yeah, so I've always like kind of done art for throughout my life. And then right around it was like high school, I was like a junior and my junior and senior year, I took a graphic design class. It was like for 2 years, and it was like I don't know if, you know, like I'm from California, so like we have like this regional occupation program that's like basically, you know, it's like a trade school but exists in high schools and stuff. And so my high school had this graphic design program, and so I took the graphic design program. And after the first year, the teacher, it was me and like 2 other students. Like we didn't have like all the curriculum that they had for us, we would finish in like the day. So they're like, we don't know what to do with you guys. And this was around the time. Apple had a product called a QuickTime VR Studio. And so we, as a part of like our class project, or like to keep us entertained, we created kind of like a Google Street View, but like super basic. Like we had a 35 millimeter camera and a tripod, and like we'd have to like go to each location. You know, we basically did it like of our high school. And so, you know, you go to each location, you take all the photos with like, you know, the different angles with your camera, and then you go back into the stitching software, and then like everything's like jacked up. And so that was kind of like my first introduction into like this whole like, oh, there's this other world and this other thing that I could create that existed. And we did, and it was pretty like for you know, as a 17, 18-year-old kid, like to be able to like build something like that. And this was like in 90. So I just turned 40. So this was 98, 99. So this was like before, like, you know, Google Street View is like, we built like the first one kind of thing, right? Just like with, so like,
that's hella OG to be scanning in 35 millimeter film to build this virtual space where you can.
Well, I mean, it was still a digital camera, but I mean the resolution, right? Like we still had a digital camera, yeah. But like yeah. I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, I would not want to.
I was like, damn, like they had like a dedicated program.
No, that would have been insane. Like to be able to.
But still, that's super
produce the film. Yeah. Oh yeah. This is like you know, like before a lot of things. And we had like hotspots. So like we were doing stuff like we had hotspots like inside of the VR, so you could actually progress to like different hotspots. And so like so that was kind of like really my first sort of like introduction into this thing of like, okay, this is what you can do with a computer. And it was all web-based, right? So it was like, this is my introduction into programming in a creative element. And so what ended up happening with me is like the path that I ended up taking was I figured out that I could make more money as a programmer than I could as like a graphic designer. And so I went that path, but I always had art has always been a part of what I've done, right? Like I don't have like the separation of like, oh, you you have to be this type of person, or, you know, like you can only be an engineer and you can only be an artist. Like I don't even view the world that way. I just view it as like, I have this problem that I have to solve, or I have this thing that I want to do. Like what are the things that I need to learn to be able to accomplish that? And so so like crypto, I actually knew about Ethereum back in like 2013 when it was first, like, you know, like early days, like, you know, I think it was like Ethereum was like out for like maybe a year. And I was working at this startup in Santa Monica. It was a real estate startup. And so I've always been dealing with maps, and, you know, so that's been a thing where, you know, I knew about the technology, but the technology was in its infancy, and it wasn't to the point, it wasn't mature enough to where it was like, okay, like I want to invest like X amount of time, or I want to build this, or what have you, right? The hurdles that needed to be jumped, like I didn't really, you know, like have I didn't have the passion that I wanted to like invest my time into creating that, and to like kind of marry the two worlds. And so, yeah, so I've just kind of been like, it's been like in the background of like, okay, at some point in time, I'm gonna want to do something inside of the metaverse, but also still have like the in real life experience, right? So it's like this whole kind of ability, like being able to create experiences that exist in both worlds is really interesting to me. And so that's how like I really like my journey has brought me to like where I'm at now. Because even with my Aglitch character, like that actually like it came out of, I have another character. So I have this whole, like, I have two other brands that I have. And so the Aura character is like the kind of the last piece of the whole, two brands. So the first brand, so the kind of the overarching brand is Eternal Transit Authority. And it's the whole thing of just like, you know, like I want to, you know, as a vehicle, you know, whether it's art, whether it's music, whether, you know, no matter what the experience is, I want to be able to blend all of the things together, right? So like the whole kind of the mission statement behind it is it's the cross-pollination of technology, urban ecosystems, and the great outdoors, right? Like that's like the whole like kind of big picture aspect. And then the first kind of character, so it's all play off of Eternal Transit Authority, ETA, right? So that's the kind of base acronym. And then the ET, I have an ET character that's like he rocks like Chuck Taylors, and he has a gold chain, and so it's kind of like this more like skate kind of urban aspect to him, like a little bit more rough, and so I had that character for a long time, and I was printing like shirts and like hoodies and stuff like that. And I like about like last year, I think it was like October, it might have been December, but I wanted to create, you know, I had these backpacks and I wanted to give them as like presents to people. And so I was like, well, okay, like I want to, you know, like I have, you know, like I'm going to make a bunch of these and I'm going to give them as gifts. So I go and I get it all set up and I send it to my printer, and then they're like, oh, you have to have a licensing agreement for this and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, I own the copyright. So it's like, I'm not, you know, all my stuff is legit. Like I've learned that along the way that like, if, you know, especially with IP, it's like, if there's any like question question, you know, like, okay, what are you going to say? No, I can't do something because I, you know, like if I'm violating somebody's copyright, that's one thing. But if I own the copyright, then it's like, it's just stupid. But,
that's yours. I mean,
but yeah, totally. So I got like, I was really like kind of frustrated, and I started doing these sketches where I was just like, you know, it's kind of part of my like daily routine of like doing a sketch. And so this one day, I was talking to my girlfriend, and you know, I was like, oh, you know, like, you know, maybe I can do, because I was really frustrated about it, and I was like, you know, maybe I'll just like sketch something out and you know, draw, like, see if I can create something. Like I don't want to let this character die. Like I've invested all this time to create it, and it's like super dope. But like, how do I create, you know, something that has the essence of it, and like, but is like, is basic. Like it seems basic, but there's like a lot, like you really connect with it more instantaneously than you would with ET. And so I just like basically created like simple outline around the ET character, and so that's how like Aura came into fruition. And he didn't have a name yet, but I was like, man, like what name am I gonna call him, and like what kind of like feeling and tone do I want, and like what do I want to be able to communicate, like, if, you know, like how do I feel about this. And so even just like looking at it, it actually didn't take a lot, because like it was already pretty much there. So like the A, like if you look at the character now, right, there's AURA, and the crossbar across the A didn't exist, and the R and the A didn't exist, but the two shapes were there. And I was like, oh, what if I did like this? And then it's just like, it really clicked. And then just kind of digging into it deeper, and like, well, you know, the kind of having the comparison between the Aura character and ET, right? It's like, they're extensions of me, but it's more of like, this is my spiritual, or my energy avatar, you know. And so like that's kind of really how Aura came into fruition. And then also at the same time, I was really interested in like glitch art, and I was like, oh, you know, I was just kind of playing with it, and then it was like clicked. I was like, oh, I'll just call him Aura Glitch. And then it was like, oh, it's a glitch, it's, you know, and then it's like, oh, well, like his, you know, just kind of playing with name. It's like, oh, his name, you know, it's Aglitch, like as if it's like somebody's name. But then it's still like, how many times within conversation with technology do people say, oh, it's a glitch, you know. It's like, so it's like purposeful in being relevant in the conversations that people have day to day and not even know it, right? So it's like,
dude,
so like,
it totally works, and it's super like memeable. Like even in my, I think it was maybe my sent post or something, I titled it A Glitch on Easy Street, 100%. But a good one, you know, because people would, you know, instantly make that connection. And another thing that your character felt, I like felt so connected to it the very first time I saw that, but I didn't make the ET connection until you actually spelled it out on the show. And I was like, oh, that's why, because I'm an 80s kids too. Like we're about the same age. And you know, so that's just from my youth, like that's ingrained there. Really, really cool. I'm digging your style. And over on the YouTube,
Thanks,
Nifty Q is going through some of your artwork and stuff. It's really cool.
Awesome.
And then let's talk about how you make some of the art, because the little sneak peek I kind of did at the video of the, I think it was your Genesis launch, you were like in VR working there.
Yeah. So that's so part of my process. I guess I could talk about the VR piece right now. So I have kind of a different process all around, I think, in how I treat my tools. So VR to me is like another tool for me to create artwork. And so with, so I'm using Gravity Sketch right now. And so like with that, you know, it's like there's a bunch of different like industries. So like architects use it, like car modelers use it. So it's like an industry, like kind of standard modeling tool within VR. And so for me, it's like, okay, like if I want to be able to, I want to be able to create things that I can, you know, either use in the metaverse, you know, from the things that I create there, or I can export them to, you know, whatever the 3D file is for it to be 3D printed, or like be able to produce it in the real world. So that's kind of like one of the things that I'm working towards. If there's anybody in the community that knows how to do that, it'd be awesome to like connect with, because like I'm like super, like even the whole like painting in VR thing, like I literally, what you saw there was I think I bought the Oculus like maybe 2 weeks before that. So like I had no experience with 3D before. And that was kind of one of the reasons I bought the Oculus, was because like I'd go into Blender and I just get like so frustrated of like, okay, I'm dealing, you know, like I want to create the things that are in my mind, but I felt blocked because I'm dealing with a 2D screen, that I didn't feel like I was a part of the thing, right? Whereas like if you're in the real world and you want to make something, it's like, oh, I just go buy wood and I put it together and like this, that, and the other thing. Mm-hmm. But to create that same experience from like just starting with just straight Blender is like the barrier for me was like really high. And so it was kind of, you know, like I wanted to be able to have a way that like I could create things and then import them into Blender and then do whatever I, you know, and I don't like, I'm still like, I'm so green in that space. You know, it's man, I wish I had like a million more hours of time.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into you know, really deeper in the metaverse. I haven't gotten goggles yet. I know when I do, it's going to be like a whole nother chunk of my time, which I don't have a lot of to spare, but it looks so cool. Like being able to, not only being able to be more submersed in, you know, places like, you know, crypto voxels or Somnium space, but to be able to also explore making art in that way, where you can just kind of, you know, physically paint with your hand, like paint light with your hands. Like that's just crazy cool.
Yeah.
And some of that is on the YouTube right now. If I glance over at my other screen, I can see you doing that from, you know, Nifty Q's playing some of the your Genesis drop party video there. It's so amazing to have these kind of tools. And now they're becoming much more affordable. Like the Quest, I think is, you know, $300 or something.
Yeah, something like that. I got the Quest 2, but yeah, I think I spent like $350 or something like that, because I got like the one with the bigger RAM.
Right, that's
just because like
super affordable.
I know myself
compared to a few years ago.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, in comparison. Oh, totally. I mean, like I was rocking like I had the Gear VR for a long time, but like even that was like, you know, the resolution of like staring at your screen and like being able to see like the screen door when you're, you know, when you're viewing is like frustrating. And that's the beautiful thing about technology is like if you have a dream and like it doesn't exist yet, at some point it will. So it's like, all right, you know, like I'll, you know, I don't need to be in a rush to get to that end goal, or, you know, like, oh no, like somebody else is going to figure it out. But it's kind of like what I found is it doesn't really matter, like, you know, wherever you're at in your journey. It's like the point in time that whatever it is that you're creating is going to make sense for that time. It doesn't need to like, because like if you rush it, it's not as I don't know. It's like the execution seems like hurried, right? And like
Yeah.
if you're hurried and if you're like you don't really like take the time to polish it, it's like it shows. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
All good. I actually have some, things that I've been thinking about, which is when do we get to see some in-world wearables? I know that you're messing with VR, like we're here, kind of. You've been doing really cool physical wearables from your digital designs, which I actually want to get one of them hoodies. There's some cool backpacks too. But I have a feeling that you may be getting into the metaverse deeper and doing some type of like wearables or NFTs. There's so much cool kind of utility and extras that you can pack into them now with the technology, and even possibly have, Digi-Physicals where you have a physical hoodie in the Regaverse, and then you have an NFT, which is a wearable hoodie in the metaverse for your avatar.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is so all of the products that are in like, so on my Aglitch.art site, so all of the collections that are inside of the Genesis, so basically for this next year, all of the drops that I do, they all have NFTs tied to them. So if you buy a hoodie in real life, that's actually tied to an NFT that you get the artwork. So like I'm trying to fit, because like really at the end of the day, it's just like you get the material, right? So like you get the material and then you can apply that to like if you wanted to create some other wearable or whatever, like you own that graphic, you own that artwork that you can apply to whatever it is. So like I already have that. That's already like I did that intent like from the get-go. But the challenge that I have right now is just like, yeah, the challenge that I have right now is like, so I'm on Origin Protocol's D Shop is what my store's running on. And I had cryptocurrency turned on as a payment method, but it just took like so long. And I figured like, people, I mean, it's kind of like the same thing with like probably like what I'm dealing with now with like with Roll, I had to wait 48 hours so that I could create my wallet and yada 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 whatever. And then I purchased Lads, and then it's like, okay, well now I have to wait for this transaction to complete. And so like part of the thing, and it might just be something that I need to find some sort of other avenue to where people's because like the thing that I'm dealing with is like you're buying a physical thing, so it's like how do you once that that item is purchased, people's expectation is that okay, I'm going to get this at a certain amount, like within X amount of time. But if the transaction hasn't completed, then like it's not going to signal to so I use Printful. It's not going to signal to Printful until like there's something complete that transaction, right?
Right.
So that's where like they're all it's all tied to an NFT, and so it's and even if you pay with credit card, it's still bound to an NFT.
Totally.
Which is really cool. It's kind of like what. Right. So like I 100% like have always, and that's been my whole intent when I started Aura, is that like this is going to be a brand that is going to be like day one. You can, is everything within the collection is going to be an NFT. So if you buy like any of the backpacks, any of the posters, any of the hoodies, tomorrow I'm dropping tank tops. So like any of those, and they're all locked to limited supply. So each a hoodie, there's only 9, right?
Nice.
So like once those are gone, like nobody else will have those, right? Only 9 people in the whole world, right? So
that's some
so
good
that's
scarcity.
where like so it's a bit like challenging too, right? Because it's like, okay, well, there's not, I mean, there's some people that are doing it, right? Like Leet's doing it and like things like that where, but they have the community and they have the audience to be able to like, okay, like this makes sense. But for me, you know, it's like, I see the opportunity, I see the value. You know, I was listening to the podcast yesterday with Medikey, you know, I'm like, dude, like that's like, I would totally use that, you know, I always think about too of like, you know, if you buy this hoodie, right, and then you go somewhere, then you know you know, it's like, okay, there's only 9 other people that have this, or there's only X amount of people, like, and so that builds community just by itself without having to be inside of the metaverse. But then once you go into the metaverse, you still have that graphic to where you can say like, oh, I have a hoodie that has this, or I have, you know, it could be applicable because the way it's set up is that since it's, you know, it's a big, like it's the file's like, I think it's like a 30 meg ping file that gets that is associated with it. So if you set that as your material, right, and whatever your objects are, like, or if you know, whatever the thing is that you create that you want to adorn your avatar with, like, you can do that, you know. And I like that's my whole thing of like, I make real world mods, but you can find me. So it's this whole thing of like really like bring like Ready Player One to like a reality, you know. And so totally. But I think a lot of people will go like, oh, well, I want to start in, you know, I want to create things in the metaverse, and then I want to expand out. But I think like you kind of have to look at where we are as a society, right? Like everybody really like right now in the NFT space is really early adopters, right? And like we're all about it, like we get it, but like the rest of the world doesn't understand that. Right? They don't get like, people still have you know, people still think like Bitcoin's a scam or crypto is like, right? There's still the mental model that people haven't overcome that hurdle to be able to make the call of like, oh, okay, I'm okay with this. So like my whole thing is like, how do I position myself so that I can be kind of that not just the incremental, not just like kind of the entry point, but it's like, okay, like you can, whether you're in the metaverse or you're in real life, like you can rock my stuff, right? Yeah, and so dude, like that's really
that is some excellent shepherding, and all I can give you is mad respect for taking the time, putting in the thought, planning this out, having your physical wearables out there while planning to have the NFTs for people. I'm curious about how long you've been on the Origin protocol and how setting that up was, and like how it's going. I know that you had mentioned that the crypto transactions like are taking a long time, and maybe not everybody's familiar with it. But you know, that would be some interesting things to hear about as well, I think.
Yeah, totally. So I've been, when did I first heard about Origin when Blau did the drop, right? And I was like, okay, like you know, I'm like so as an engineer, so like I've been building products for like a long time, and I always, you know, whatever I'm building, it's always like, okay, what platform is being used? Why are they using? Like I kind of deep dive into figure out like, okay, what is the benefit of this? Like, how can I use it? Like, is this worth my effort or worth my time? And so I was like, okay, well, if there's a platform that can support like that kind of volume of traffic and that kind of transactions within NFTs, like I want to know, like I want to figure out like how can I use that, and how can I set myself up to use it? Because then, you know, I mean, it comes back to it's a trust dynamic, right? This whole thing of like, oh, well, you know, like I don't trust this, but if you have, or I still don't, it I guess solves the the trust issue with like crypto being like, you know, dark web or whatever. Like people have this negative connotation against it, and it checked those boxes. I initially, and I'm still just on their whatever, it's not self, like I have I fork repo, so I have like the self-hosted one or self-managed, which I plan to get to at some point in time, but right now I'm just under the Origin Protocol D shop. It was good setup. The experience, it's still, you know, it's still like a really experimental shop, but it is right. Like the cool thing about it, like I found a bug and I fixed the bug that like a lot, like, so there was an issue where if you go to checkout on mobile, you couldn't get past like the email address field. Like you would like put in your email address, you hit continue and just sit there. And so like, which was like a huge pain, right? Is like you tell somebody like, hey, go buy my hoodie, and they're like, I can't get past this. I'm like,
oh yeah,
okay.
So it's so harsh when, because we're early days, and so like it's really harsh when you recommend something and someone goes and it happens to break that day, and like they're like, oh well, it didn't work for me, and they're kind of turned off to it. So it's a balancing act kind of like of what tech you use, and you know, we'll be able to have a lot more smoother onboarding, I think, really pretty soon. I do think the Origin Protocol and things like that are going to be really important for just, you know, your average artist, creator, musician to be able to get their Web3 on, and also, you know, be able to help onboard and reach their audience and, you know, their super fans and all that. I was probably in the same maybe Clubhouse or something with Lau when you were there, when he was doing his drop and talking about with the Origin Protocol people, and I was impressed from what I heard.
Yeah, totally. And so like my thing, and I actually like fixed that issue. Like, so like you can actually, and that's one of the really cool things about like where a lot, like, yes, there's a core team that's like builds the stuff, but it's still open source. So like if you find a bug and you're like, oh, okay, I can fix this, you can submit a pull request back, right? And say like they'll assess it and they're like, okay, cool, like we'll, you know, this bug is squashed. So that I think is like really powerful to have a platform that's like, you know, whereas like Shopify, like, okay, if you find a bug in core Shopify, you're like, it's under their discretion, right? Kind of like, is this worth putting our developer time towards? And they're not like, even if you submitted something to their to like their shopping cart, they're not necessarily, you know, it's like not really in their best interest to do that. But or I mean, it is in their best interest, that's not what I mean, but it's, you know, it's like when you have platforms that are built to be decentralized, like the barrier to solve the problem is a lot lower. Like you can just say, oh, I found this thing, and like it gets fixed, and then like the rest of the community benefits from that thing that you fixed, which is like, that's power.
That's awesome.
So that's what I'm
squash that bug.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was actually pretty simple. Like once I got into it, which it was just like, just the way the validation happened. So like they were doing the same validation on mobile as they were on desktop. So, you know, I mean, it's just things like, for me, I was like, oh, this is easy, but it's like, I've been doing this for so long that
that's forget. Rad. That's rad to have that kind of skills. Like, and I know that from working on some projects and with developers, you know, and hanging out on technical calls sometimes, I am not by any means any coder at all. But it's interesting absorbing the information and finding out how the systems, you know, work so differently on, you know, a computer versus like a mobile phone and things like that. So it's interesting. I like hearing about, you know, that kind of thing. And yeah, if I would love to know how to code. I tried a few of the little like online courses, and I was like, past like level 1, and then I got lost.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with that, like, what my advice is find, when you build something, don't like, oh, I'm just trying to like build this thing because I want to do, I want to make money or I want to whatever. It's like it has to be something that you're passionate about, because it'll keep you engaged. And then once you kind of like solve those things, I mean, there's always going to be like I feel all day long. It's just a persistence of like, okay, like I just got to keep going and I got to go back to it. And then, um, and I think that's true of all of us, right? It's like, okay, why am I like, I should just quit and go be an alpaca farmer. Or something, not to knock that, like, that's not a knock at all. It's just more of like, there's a, um, we all suffer.
It takes passion and persistence, and more on some days than others. But I can, you had mentioned at the beginning that you drew with crayon on the walls as a baby, and that really you've been, an artist basically since birth. So it's in the blood. So it's great to have people that are that passionate, have the drive as well to keep going and pushing themselves and creating, the type of products you are, where you have these limited, very dope wearable items in the real world, like the backpacks and the hoodies. Like, think how cool that would be to be wearing one of those hoodies. And even if it wasn't the exact same one, if there's only like eight or nine of each of these, but if you recognized, you're like, oh, that's an Aglitch hoodie, and you just happen to like, see somebody going down the street, I myself would like walk over and be like, what up, Aglitch? Just like, that would be so cool. So it's really fun having that kind of thing, and then integrating it as well into the metaverse with NFTs and other types of digital collectibles or wearables is really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, totally.
You had mentioned two more brands earlier, and that this was kind of the culmination, or kind of the like icing on the top. Do you want to tell a little bit about those brands and maybe how they got you to here? Or?
Yeah, they're still, I mean, they're not like really known, but it's just more of kind of the overarching. So like the ETA, so that is like if you're from Los Angeles, you have the LA Metro logo. And so I took the LA Metro logo and I rotated it counterclockwise, and I dropped a T and A on the arm. So that's the kind of main emblem. And then I have another like character. There's a vehicle that I made it's a street sweeper, a bus, and a taco truck, like all mashed together. And that's kind of the yeah, and it looks like it could probably take off because the street sweepers could look like the DeLorean rockets. Yeah, so I think if you go, do I have it on there? So if you go to eternal.transit on Instagram, you can see, so that's like the ET, the character, and then like the Eternal Transit Authority brand it just lives under that. But yeah, so I was pushing that for about, I came up with that in like 2010. And so like I just was kind of like building that and kind of like, okay, I'm gonna create some stuff. So I made some hoodies with that, and I have some like other artwork a lot of my glitches and my artwork that I have now kind of prefaces like that it's a lot more like vector and still kind of this whole I call it like abstract motion is how, like the best way that I can explain like my style of artwork, I guess, because I haven't really seen anybody do the types of things that I do. But then again, it's not like I really, like my influences are like graffiti and, like hip hop music, reggae. Like I'm really, that's kind of what drives the art that I create, and that has that influence.
Down with that.
So yeah, I was actually, do you know the graffiti artist Risk? Are you familiar with him at all?
It does sound familiar, but not super well.
Anyway, he's like the OG, like godfather of graffiti in Los Angeles. But he has like, he just did he has a show in Miami going on right now, but he does a lot of like, his stuff's insane. But I got to go hang out at his spot a couple weeks ago, like a couple days before my birthday.
Nice.
And yeah, so it's just like cool to be able to like, you know, be in the presence of like people that are like, you know, I'm like, who am I? Like, I don't really see myself as like, you know, anybody. I'm just a person like doing my thing. But it's just like it's like one thing to see their work, but then to actually like interact with the person and just like, oh, okay, like,
dude, I totally get it. Totally get it. I was I was able to go to the Miami Bitcoin 2021 convention, and I've been doing going to this event with a group that has a Discord, Street Gems. They have a Discord, I think it's .gems, and they're doing these metaverse graffiti battles basically. So they did a test. It was kind of like Gen 0 beta, and they did an event, and it was 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, you would go, and they had different graffiti artists that had submitted graffiti made in VR. I think they used Graffiti Kings, I think that might be the app if I remember right. So they submit their images, and there's like 8 or 10, and then you do voting by you'd fill out a Google form and do your first round of voting, and that narrows it down some. And then they send you, from putting your wax address in the Google form, they send you 2 tokens, a vote A token and a vote B token. So then they have the round A, and you send the token to the person that you think should win, and whoever has the most tokens in their wallet wins and goes to the next round. And then they did like voting by foot in CryptoVoxels, where you just stand on the side of like where the image is that you like best. So like trying really fun things. We're actually going to be ciphering over there during the finals, which was a Sunday, and that was a live graffiti session where the 2 finalists go at it, and they had, I think, like 30 minutes or so to make a piece that's being displayed, both of them, while they're making it. So we're going to do a live rap battle while they're doing the graffiti battle, and they're all about just like the street art kind of renaissance in the metaverse, trying to get people involved. So it sounds like something that you'd be interested in too. Yeah,
totally. I mean, that's kind of that's interesting that you say that. So like one of the things that I'm interested in doing is like essentially like a VR sketch party. So within like even the program VR Sketch, they're actually offering, they haven't released it yet for individuals, but they're going to. They're going to offer like collaboration, so you could have like a bunch of people and have, so like I'm talking to this guy in Japan right now that's like a gnarly set designer. So I'm like really kind of thinking about, and I own the domain, like, so it'll be in a VR sketch party.
Awesome.
.party. And so that cool thing, like maybe we can collaborate on, or like because I really like, have you heard of Secret Walls?
No, I haven't, but it's already sounding cool.
Oh dude, yeah. So Secret Walls has been around for a long time, and they're like all like they're graffiti battles. Like they have like they have it, you can only use black and white, and it's like either use Sharpie or paint markers or whatever. And then they have it set up to where it's teams, but they have like 3 panels. So like they have like let's say they do like woes and like like OG Slick would be on a team, and then so they have like all these, you know, they pair them together, and then like they battle, and it goes for like I think an hour, maybe, or 2 hours, and then it's like this whole, it's pretty cool, but it's like they have them at like different spots around. So I was like, oh, like how could I create something like that, but like, you know, have a sketch party in VR that like you can have all these people come to, or like either you can come and watch or you can participate.
That is fully epic, dude. I met a graffiti artist at the Bitcoin 2020 on, this guy Lorenzo, who does the street punks, and
Oh, nice.
we've had a few calls since, and we were talking about just this kind of thing, and we were actually talking. I was telling him about that event that goes down in Crypto Voxels, and we were talking about, you know, trying to figure out, and I even mentioned it at the whip today. That we totally need either common areas inside these metaverses like parks where people can go up and throw up their art, or an easy way where someone that owns property can like open it up so people can do that. And I think you can open your stuff up in Crypto Voxels, but it would be ideal to be able to be like, okay, this wall is this, or the whole outside of my building, whatever it is, is open for people to come and be able to like tag up or put a piece of their art. And of course the owner could take it down, but you'd be able to give people a chance to show their stuff, and just everyone to be more creative.
And I think from it. Yeah, 100%. I think one of the things too, especially with like stuff like Super Worlds or Super World, like where like the, you know, same kind of thing where it's like, okay, I have this land and like, let's, you know, wherever it's at, like you can have, you know, have the ability to like put your art up in like iconic places and put it everywhere. You know, it's like I think a lot about kind of distribution and how, you know, like how can, you know, a person, like if there's a person at one place, we're creating it, but like you're basically able to cast it out to like all these other places. And have a wider audience of like, you know, like, I mean, yeah, it's cool to be able to say like, oh, hey, we're going to go meet at this one place and we can do this. But like to be able to do that and then have like the whole kind of AR dynamic to where like, you know, if you're in Venice and you're at the skate park and you're like, oh, dude, like I heard about this thing. And then now you can see like this sculpture is now like, you know, dropped on whatever while, you know, like while you're filming or whatever. I think like that's really interesting.
Absolutely. And I actually just had Super World on the show, and I don't, the question came about, and to my surprise, because I didn't know that, I guess on Super World you can put stuff up anywhere. Like, you don't have to own the property to put stuff up. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. Like, I thought, you know, you'd be able to put the stuff on your own place and people can come find it and whatever. But the, you know, owning property, you can get like, you know, some kind of benefit from things that go on your property. But that, yeah, it's freely, you know, anybody can go in and make a Super World account and be able to like, you know, put their art up in some big city on the AR level. Really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. We have, I think, about 6 minutes left before we wrap it up. I usually try and keep these to about an hour just to be, you know, respective of everyone's times. And Thursdays are a bit of a big one for myself included. Is there anything that we didn't touch that you want to go on to? And then I also wanted to mention to people in the Discord chat or in the YouTube chat, if you have a question, you know, tag me in the Discord at Ezincrypto and let me know, and I'll try and keep an eye over on the YouTube as well.
Yeah, I'm all for answering, you know, whatever questions people have. I do remember. So if anybody's in LA, I'm a part of a group show for BitClout on the 26th. It's at Aero Salon in downtown LA. So that's going down next Saturday. But other than that,
if you've got a link for that, or a tweet link or something, drop that in the chat. So if anybody is in the area, they can always follow up.
Yeah, I will do that.
And I will drop your links again in the chat as well, in case anybody wants to go take a look at these dope merch items that now you also know come with an NFT. And yeah, let's see. I'm scrolling up the chat a little to see if I might have missed something, because sometimes I don't pay as close of attention as I should when I'm just in deep thought, listening and enjoying
No,
these times. Great. This
no
has
worries.
been an epic show. I'm super stoked that we got to connect, and I definitely want to connect more offline about some of the overlap, in the
Oh,
whole kind of
100%.
graffiti and hip hop culture that we
Yeah.
both got going on. I'm sure we'll be able to kind of cross pollinate and collaborate in some measure or another, which is, to me, what this space has been kind of all about from the beginning. When I got into the space, I was blown away by, so many open doors and warm welcomes and willingness to get into the DMs or even have a call just to be able to like ask questions or, maybe bounce some ideas off people that had been in the space longer. So I always generally try and reciprocate that. And like my DMs on Twitter are always open, and I wind up, booking crazy amounts of calls with people to, hear what they got going on or what questions. But yeah, I would definitely love to coordinate and get a little deeper on some of this stuff, because it sounds like we
Yeah.
could definitely
No, totally.
do some
And that,
cool
I mean,
shit
that's,
together.
like I said, like it really, when at the beginning of the call, like the, like the wind and like the connection that I've found and the community that I've found, like I've only been on here, like, I think the first time I was on here was like, uh, 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. I think I was on the radio show with Crypto Buffalo. Um,
Nice.
so it was like, it's just like refreshing to be able to like connect with like-minded people that are, like there's a lot of cross interest that you're not necessarily aware of when you're like, oh, okay, like I know this community exists, right? Like if I exist, like there has to be other people, but to find that tribe, like it's not as easy, right? So yeah, I'm grateful for what the community that you guys have built so far, and I'm looking forward to contribute as well.
Oh man, love to hear it, because in Lad City, like there's so many cool kind of different projects going on. You got like Chonya doing like the Avagachi lads. We got like lads drippies. We got it would be really cool, really, really cool to maybe get some more lads physical merch. I mean, that snapback, I am so glad I got a drippies so that I'm getting one of those snapbacks. Like that was like such a clutch maneuver, and I knew it at the time. I was like, this is not going to be one of those things I miss, like punks or apes or camels or whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah, it would be really cool to have, like, I would love to rock like a lads hoodie with some dope glitched out art on it. That could be really
yeah,
cool. And I
yeah.
mean,
We can totally do that.
a lot of other cool, metaverse builders groups and all sorts of stuff going on
Yeah,
over here. So yeah, I'm
100%.
stoked
Yeah,
you're in the
yeah.
tribe.
However I can help.
Dope. Well, I think that may be a wrap for the show. We're just about on the hour. You know what? Our Vibe, Our Tribe. If you were listening on YouTube, make sure you do come check out ladz.city. Come over into the Lad City Discord, where we have all sorts of crazy cool content. You can stack Lads tokens just by participating. I must have dropped $50 working the show tonight, and then you can rank up. So once you start collecting more lads, you'll get access to even more channels and information, all the way up until where you can provide liquidity on Uniswap and get back a nice chunk of lads. And sometimes you just find a cool NFT in your wallet. A lot of cool collaborations. But yeah, so with that, I'm going to do a couple last drops in the Discord. And much appreciate everybody coming by, both on the YouTube platform and over in Lad City. Hope you enjoyed Easy Street, and we do this every week, same time, same place, Thursdays, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern. Peace.
Later.